And I'm Michael.
Welcome to another episode of the Pricing Guys. This week, well, they dropped, right? Tariffs are out there.
Yeah, I was looking at that and I was thinking to myself, like, you might be the oracle here because it was literally not even 2 weeks ago we talked and you had mentioned that for sure they're coming, and you had a good rationale, but I was a bit skeptical, given what happened last time with kind of the last minute bailout, so to speak. But they came, they're here. There's been a retaliation already, and it's a new reality.
Yeah, we're in it. I mean, 100%. I think the other thing that we're seeing out there now is a lot of people are talking about how temporary this is going to be, and they're like, hey, maybe it's going to be done by next week, or we're going to meet half and half in between.
It's interesting you say that because the government, I forget who the guy was in the U.S., and they already came out and said that there might be a deal with Canada and Mexico within kind of the next 24 hours. And it goes to show that maybe it is temporary, but it was temporary last time. So I think we have to be prepared that even if there is a resolution in the short term, it's going to be a short-term resolution. We're going to be back to this before we know it.
I mean, for me, come on, like, when have we ever seen the government move quickly on something, especially this complex now, in terms of affecting all these these trade agreements that some, it's arguable whether it's been violated or not, and then, who hit what and what's moving where and how much people have stocked up. It's going to be there, and it's going to be there for a long time. No question about it. But it's something structural.
But we already saw, like, the reactions. So saw a lot of articles in the last 24 hours, Best Buy coming out and talking about how they're going to have to increase prices. I think they said, 6 days until prices are going up?
I saw that the Target CEO was on there, and he was talking about food. And he's like, over the winter, we get a lot of food from Mexico. It's just what it is. So, like, things like avocados and strawberries, they're going to go up within days. Like, it is what it is. It's just a fact. So for me, like, where my mind immediately went to is, okay, let's say because, when we saw inflation happen with COVID last time at stores, it's not like just select things went up. It seemed like there was general inflation that went up right across the categories, right? So immediately for me, let's say I'm a manufacturer that's going ahead and supplying things to Target. If they're taking their price up in days, am I starting to think I might lose some of the margin pool? And when I say margin pool, I talk about how much the retailer's making, how much I'm making. They take up their price. I've missed my opportunity to take up my price, and they're going to squeeze me. Or they're going to say, all right, you want to take up your price? I'm going to take my price even higher and make you uncompetitive in the market.
But that's exactly what we saw during COVID, right?
100%.
It's the same thing, and I think last time we talked, you mentioned is a get out of jail free card. And I think that a lot of people are going to be looking at this and justifying those changes and pushing them through because it's an opportunity that comes up maybe, I was going to say once in a lifetime, but maybe a couple times based on what's kind of happening here.
It seems like every couple of years we have it now.
It's becoming seasonal. It's just very cyclical, right?
All we're doing is devaluing everything. But anyhow.
But what's interesting, so Target said prices are going up. I think on the other side, Walmart came out and said they're going to eat the cost.
Or they're going to manage their way.
Or they're managed, yeah, right.
Something like that.
Manage the cost. And I think what's really interesting for me when I think about that statement, we're going to manage our way through this and we're not going to increase the prices. I'm not sure about you, but I don't think large multinational corporations are going to be in the habit of devaluing their P&L and letting it flow to the bottom line. So what does that mean at the end of the day? And if I am a U.S. manufacturer or I'm selling into Walmart, I'm probably going to be paying for that. Somebody's got to pay for it if they're not going to take those prices up. Like, where's the money going to come from?
Yeah. Like for me, there's a couple knock-on effects there. If, to your point, they're probably going to squeeze their manufacturers harder, right? Or their suppliers harder. And if you're in their position, I mean, it's one of two things. Either you're going to go ahead and compromise and you're going to eat some of it, or you're going to take out value, right? Out of your products, out of your service. And so consumers going to pay one way or the other, right? And I think the other thing, knowing that some retailers, I mean, everyone's going to have to move now. Companies need to move quickly now. It's not kind of let's do a deep study on this and we have to take 6 months. They're going to have to move quickly because to go ahead and change your cost, in a lot of instances, there's notification timing that you have to give your customers, right?
Yeah, 30,
like
60, 90. Yeah.
So we're already behind the ball, right? It's going to be a bit hairy out there.
But I think you got to be careful because when you make the statement, you got to move quick. I agree with you. This isn't something that you need to go and study for the next 6 to 18 months, right? Like it's here, it's happening. You need to react. But at the same time, I'm hearing a lot of people, and in the pricing world, we call it kind of the peanut butter spread. All right, you're going to put this tax on, put it on, and just kind of spread it across. And I'm not sure if that's the right way to think about it either. That might be too much of a knee-jerk reaction. I think there's a very balanced middle approach where you need to do some work to really understand what these impacts are going to be and where you should be moving prices and what does that mean to your portfolio and looking at it strategically. But at a certain point, you got to get to a decision and you got to move. So I think there's that balance of I want to make sure that I'm doing the due diligence and doing the analysis. But you're right, it can't be this analysis paralysis that you're going to be there for 6 months running scenarios.
I totally agree with you. It has to be thoughtful. We were talking to, they had home fixtures that they were selling. And the last time tariffs had hit, they looked at where the footprint was coming from each of their products and they adjusted the products in line with that. And they didn't recoup their market share for another 3 years as they passed that on to the market. And, that was just a total financial exercise. So you're right. There is a process here, thinking about what are our different elasticities, which customers should we be passing at, how do we want to drive the customers within our portfolio. Like this can be an opportunity to drive mix. We can drive profitability with this, but no, that's like company's got to get focused and take that 4 to 6 weeks, whatever that's going to look like, and come with something better than just a peanut butter spread. 100%.
Yeah, and I think you see everyone's talking about this now, and I think that it's really, really important to make sure that you're zeroing in on the right process, because I've seen a lot of people talk about, well, look at this decision tree and you can do 1 or 2 things and you kind of have your quick answer. And I think your example is a perfect one because it's a dangerous game to play. Right? There's a lot of money at stake, a lot of market share, and it could take years and years and years to recover from this type of stuff.
And let's go back to the example we were talking about. I think Walmart was saying they're going to try to manage through it, and Chipotle as well said they're going to try to manage through it.
The guacamole? Yeah. I can't even imagine how much guacamole they go through. Like, think about if avocados are going up. I'm not a guacamole man myself, but they're going to manage their way through. Like, how are you going to do that?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I guess for me, as we kind of talk about these companies that are saying they're going to try and manage their way through, let's kind of play that out. Let's pretend they're competitors. Go ahead and increase. Then at the end of the day, because they're changing their competitive gap on what they had to their competition, theoretically they're investing, right? And they're investing in the hopes that they're going to drive volume, right? Now, it's like any other investment that we put into the market or we put into our company. What's the ROI associated with that? How many customers am I truly capturing? And you're starting to play a dangerous game, because if you go ahead and let's say they are successful, they go ahead and they start to cannibalize these customers. If you're the competition, what are you going to do? You're not going to just sit there with your thumb, right? You're going to go ahead and you're going to start making some moves as well. So you run the risk of devaluing the entire industry, right? And driving that value out of there.
Yeah, I think starting a price war is probably the last thing that you really want to do, because nobody's going to win in that situation, right? You're just going to be pushing price down, eroding value, and you're going to be in a much worse spot. Because again, I'm not sure these tariffs are going away.
Well, starting a price war when your costs are going up, that's a recipe to like just squeeze people to death, right? Like, I mean, there's no getting, like, the numbers are working in the wrong direction, right?
I think the other thing that a lot of people aren't considering, I've seen a lot of these scenarios, and I've seen a lot of this, like, you know, which way you're going to go, and here's what your strategy is going to be for the tariffs. But are we really thinking about the size of the market? Because at the end of the day, in most cases, right, I know these people are saying they're going to manage their way through it and do different things, but managing your way through it, is the consumer, the customer, the end user, somebody's going to pay at some point further down the line. The person at the end of the day is going to be paying more, and it's going to be eroding a lot of that disposable income, right? So it's going to really depend on what category you're in, but it's going to shrink the market, and there's not going to be as many dollars out there to purchase with. So what's going to happen is that, yeah, you might be fighting a game and holding back and moving your gaps to try and get market share, but you're getting a smaller piece of the pie.
Yeah, because the category, I mean, you just can't consume as much, right? You've got to, I mean, income isn't going to go as quickly up. And that's a great point, too, because it's you're fighting over a smaller pie, to your point. And how do we position ourselves strategically within that? And it's not only like a customer going to a grocery store. It is, you know, if you got a B2B customer, they've got a budget of a certain size, right? It's not like now, since something passed, okay, we're increasing the budget by this percentage. It's thinking about, okay, how do we go ahead and within these adjusted confines, what are we providing to them? And what's kind of critical, and that companies will really need to kind of shift themselves out of, is that, yeah, you had an existing portfolio of whatever your offers were and however you were packaging. Now, the simple thing to do would just be like, okay, well, your cost went up by this amount. I'm going to just cut my price. But the real good companies are going to start to think about what are the actual customer needs that we're trying to fill, and how do we start to rejig our offerings to still meet their needs and meet their price needs as well. Yeah. And which customers do I want to go after, and which customers do I not want to go after as well? It's going to be that much more critical.
So if I can kind of summarize what we were talking about today, you know, first off, you're the oracle. You called it in very short order. But really, you know, the tariffs are here now. You have to get your process in place to react. But you have to find that balance of making sure you're doing the analysis in detail, not necessarily knee-jerk reaction or analysis paralysis, but really spend the time to understand where you should be moving and move quick, move fast, because there's not much time.
Yeah, I think that is a great summary. The only thing I would add on is if you don't do anything, someone's going to do it for you, right? If you're, depending on where you are in the value chain, like something's going to shift for you. Yeah. So it's either you can get ahead of this.
Be proactive. Be proactive.
You can be proactive, or you can be a victim, right? That's all that's going to happen here.
So that's all we had for you today, but we'll catch you next time, and we look forward to talking to you then.
Thank you.